Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, a thumbs up, share it with friends on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe if you haven't already at youtube.com/NoDQCAW. With that being said, let's get down to your questions, as we are less than 2 weeks away now from the Royal Rumble. This first question comes from TJ, Trent Swag 316. What did you think of Kalisto winning the US title, and do you think it's the right move? At first, I did not feel it was a good idea to have that match take place on Raw. I felt that it would have been better happening at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, but after sitting through 2 hours of what I felt was a mediocre Raw, WWE really needed something significant to happen, and I felt that by having Kalisto win the title, it made that episode of Raw memorable. I think it's a good idea every now and then to have a title change on Raw so fans will keep tuning in. They have a reason to tune in, because if they miss an episode of Raw, they might miss something important. Because of that, I felt it was the right decision to have the title change on Raw. And I'm assuming that we'll still get the rematch at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view with some sort of stipulation. And another question here about Kalisto from Levi Herrera. After all these months of making Cena making the US title seem important, doesn't Kalisto having it seem backwards? To be fair, I think anybody winning the US title after John Cena would be seen as a step backwards, because you really do not get any bigger than having John Cena as the US champion. John Cena has been the face of the company for a decade now. It's only going to go downhill from there, regardless of who holds the title. Now, with that being said, I like the idea of a rising star winning the title, Kalisto getting his push. I felt it was a fun moment for him to win the title, and a nice upset on Monday Night Raw. To be fair also, I wasn't really impressed with Del Rio's run as US champion. I felt something needed to be done. Somebody new had to hold the title, and Kalisto won it. Now, for all we know, Kalisto will lose the title right back to Del Rio, and that'll be the end of his push. Who knows? That remains to be seen. But for now, I thought it was a good decision. Alright, this next one comes from Isabella. Hey Aaron, happy Monday. Could this be the end of Sting's WWE career because of him going to this year's Hall of Fame? Please answer in video. I've gotten a lot of questions about Sting going into the Hall of Fame. I do not think that that means his career is over in the ring just because he's going into the Hall of Fame. I think you could still have Sting wrestle after the Hall of Fame induction. I think what's going to determine his future in the ring is his health, and if he's cleared to wrestle again. And even if he is cleared to wrestle, is it worth the risk getting back in the ring and getting hurt again? Perhaps if Sting is cleared and under the right circumstances, he will wrestle again. He was expected to go into the Hall of Fame regardless of the injury or not, but the injury is going to play more of a role in his future than going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's always the possibility he'll wrestle again. I think the injury is more of a reason why he will not wrestle again, rather than him going into the Hall of Fame. Alright, this one comes from Trav Clark. Who do you think will induct Sting into the Hall of Fame? I've got my money on either Flair or RoboCop. Please answer in video. Well, I think RoboCop has a better chance than Hulk Hogan at this point. I would go with Ric Flair. I think Ric Flair is the best choice because Flair was the guy that really made Sting's career. You go back to the very first Clash of the Champions, the 45-minute draw between Flair and Sting. That is the match that really put Sting on the map. And then 2 years later, when Ric Flair dropped the WCW/NWA title to Sting in Baltimore at the Great American Bash, Ric Flair really played a huge role in the rise of Sting in WCW and the NWA. You could argue for Lex Luger, but, on a personal level, I think Flair would be a better choice because I think he'll be more entertaining when it comes to the speech for Sting. Ric Flair will go out there and he'll do his thing, and it'll be very fun and entertaining. So I think for multiple reasons, I would go with Flair. Alright, this one comes from Grant Hudson. Do you think Taker will still be inducted this year, or do you think they'll wait until next year? I would wait. Please answer in video. I liked the idea of Sting and The Undertaker going in the same year if they were going to both go into the Hall of Fame and then wrestle each other at WrestleMania, where you'd have two Hall of Famers going in at the same time and then having a retirement match against each other. But if that match is not happening at this year's WrestleMania, then I would wait. Sting, either guy, can stand alone as the Hall of Fame headliner. And if you're not going to tie the two of them together into a match at WrestleMania, then there's really no point in putting both of them in the same year. Undertaker going in Texas would be a nice touch, but it's not really necessary at this point, especially if they're not working against each other at the pay-per-view. Alright, this next one comes from Darren Holding. When Undertaker and Kane go into the Hall of Fame, will they both be put in character or put into them as themselves, Mark and Glenn? Please answer in video. I really see no reason for them to go in under their real names. Just about everyone that's gone into the Hall of Fame has gone in under their stage name if they had a stage name. Sting is going in as Sting, not Steve Borden. And WWE went out of their way this past week on Raw to highlight all of the media outlets that mentioned Sting going into the Hall of Fame. Now, if these outlets had reported Steve Borden going into the Hall of Fame, a lot of people would be like, who? With Undertaker and Kane, it would be about marketing Undertaker and Kane going into the Hall of Fame and getting the headlines, Undertaker going into the Hall of Fame. If it read Mark Calloway going into the Hall of Fame, WWE would not get nearly as much publicity. So it is about marketing and just honoring the character, The Undertaker, highlighting and honoring the character Kane. Alright, this one comes from Liam Tennant. Does the fact that Kevin Owens was one of the guys to take a suplex from Lesnar show that WWE won't go anywhere with him? I actually felt WWE did a decent job with that ending on Raw. You know, I was figuring that when WWE announced it was going to be one versus all, that Roman Reigns would go through like 10 guys and then finally get beat up in the end. Instead, what WWE decided to do was have Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens just have one long match, and then at the end, before the finish, all the guys jump in and attack Roman Reigns, and then Brock Lesnar made the save and then took out everybody. Now, Kevin Owens already went through a 15-minute match with Roman Reigns, so to me it wasn't really hurting his character at all to get suplexed by Brock Lesnar after he already went through that battle with the WWE Champion. So I actually felt WWE handled it well, better than I was expecting when they announced the segment for the end of the show. Alright, this one comes from Beast Slayer. Ric Flair says Hulk Hogan wasn't the best draw, but that Steve Austin was. Would you agree? Yes, I would agree with that. Hulk Hogan set a lot of records, no question about it. He was the biggest draw of the 1980s, but when Steve Austin came along and the Stone Cold character got red hot, WWE business was taken to a whole new level. Steve Austin shattered old records, merchandise, pay-per-view numbers, attendance numbers, everything hit new records when Steve Austin got on top. And for the period that Austin was on top, the business was never hotter. Professional wrestling got hotter than it had ever been, and WWE became this huge empire, even bigger than it already was, and they've never looked back. WWE got so big as a result that they were able to survive against WCW and put WCW out of business. Although one would argue WCW put themselves out of business, but that's a whole other topic. But yes. Alright, this next one comes from Richard Henderson. Do you think Lemmy from Motorhead or the entire band will go into the Hall of Fame this year or in the near future? Please answer in video. Thanks. That would not surprise me at all. We all know how Triple H feels about Lemmy and Motorhead. I could see the whole band going in as the celebrity induction into the Hall of Fame, and if they were going to do it, this year would be the year to do it. I could definitely see that happening. I think the odds are pretty good, as a matter of fact. So we'll see what happens with that. Alright, this one comes from Kayfabe Candy S. Was it just this crowd, or do people not give a flying rat's ass about Reigns? No one cared that he had to face everyone. That was just a bad crowd in general. That crowd in New Orleans did not react to almost anything on this entire show. They did react to Brock Lesnar, as you mentioned in the other tweet. Brock Lesnar came out, got a huge pop. I think fans just knew going in that Brock Lesnar was going to show up at the end. He was advertised for Raw, and when the match was announced, people figured, okay, all the guys will beat down Roman Reigns, and then Brock Lesnar will make the save. So people were just sitting there waiting for Brock Lesnar to show up. And that's what it was. That's why the crowd was dead for the match, because they knew what the ending was going to be, and they were just waiting for it. Alright, this one comes from Keto. What do you think about Dolph Ziggler facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania? Dolph is all about stealing the show. It could very well be booked like a Shawn vs. Undertaker 3. As much as I hate to say it, I do not feel Dolph Ziggler is in the right position at this point to be facing The Undertaker. Dolph Ziggler has not been pushed very strongly in recent months. I think that you need somebody who is very credible to go against The Undertaker. Not that Dolph Ziggler isn't a credible performer, but his character just hasn't been built up strong enough, I think, to be a serious contender to The Undertaker, where people would think that Ziggler actually had a chance of beating him. You need to put somebody who's right there as The Undertaker's equal, somebody who you really think could take down The Undertaker. And unfortunately, Dolph Ziggler is not that guy. He hasn't been portrayed as that guy, and I'm not sure that in 3 months WWE could build up Ziggler enough to the point where he would be a viable contender for The Undertaker. So, match would be good, but I really feel that it's too little too late to do that match for this year's WrestleMania, if at all. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding the Royal Rumble, and I will see you guys next time for more.